Today, the government is adding a further 324 unique makes and models of assault-style firearms to the list of prohibited firearms in Canada.
And so today, we're moving forward. We're introducing legislation to implement a national freeze on handgun ownership.
This prohibition takes effect immediately. This means these firearms can no longer be legally used, sold, or imported in Canada, and can only be transferred or transported under extremely limited circumstances.
What this means is that it will no longer be possible to buy, sell, transfer, or import handguns anywhere in Canada.
As part of that process, the Government of Canada has committed to the Ukrainian government to identify whether some of these guns could be donated to support the fight for democracy in Ukraine.
And that's why Canada and others are unequivocal that Ukraine must win this war against Russia.
As my colleague Minister LeBlanc has indicated, we've been working very closely with our friends in Ukraine to ensure that weapons that were intended to be used in combat could be made available to them. And since Russia's brutal and unjustified invasion of Ukraine, Canada has and continues to make every effort to support our Ukrainian allies in their fight to defend their territory, their sovereignty, their citizens, and to win this war.
Canadians know this is a question of right or wrong. Canadians know that, yes, it is incredibly hard for Ukraine to continue to stand against Russian aggression. And let's be honest, it's hard for the democracies around the world who are there to support their citizens, who are investing for the future, who are challenged with a challenging economy around the world to continue to step up as Canada has with close to $9 billion in aid for Ukraine. But we will, because the cost on Canadians, on our lives, on our world will be so much greater if Putin wins this war that we will and have to stand every single day until Ukraine wins this war.
We reached out to the Ukrainians once again to see whether any of the weapons that are currently under amnesty through Canada's assault-style firearms compensation program could be of any use to them in their fight against Russia. And they confirmed that indeed, some of the weapons that are part of the program would be suitable. So I'm pleased today to joining in this announcement to announce also that the Department of National Defence will begin working with the Canadian companies that have weapons that Ukraine needs and which are already eligible for the assault-style firearm compensation program in order to get these weapons out of Canada and into the hands of the Ukrainians.
In other words, we're capping the market for handguns.
This is Dan Dicks here reporting for Press for Truth. Justin Trudeau says there's no reason that anybody in Canada should need guns in their everyday life. And this is also Justin Trudeau surrounded by men protecting him with guns. So obviously what he's saying here is not necessarily that guns are bad, but guns are good in the hands of the right people and bad in the hands of the wrong people. The wrong people being private citizens, and the right people, in his view, being the government. Because the moral argument that he's making here is pitting two different groups of society against one another, gun holders that are good and gun holders that are bad. And the only thing that differentiates these two groups is this concept called the state, which, as you will see in this video, is absolutely now attempting to maintain their monopoly on violence. So here we see Justin Trudeau just posted this: military-style assault rifles don't belong in our community, so we've banned them. Liberals ban hundreds more types of firearms and look to send these prohibited guns to Ukraine. as if things couldn't get any crazier with the Ukraine situation, the Canadian government is now confiscating firearms from law-abiding citizens and looking to donate them to Ukraine in its fight for democracy. Despite the fact that Ukraine is having just suspended their elections indefinitely, Canada is run by criminals. And that's an understatement, I would say. I mean, this guy here, Bill Blair, the defense minister, should himself be a criminal for what he did during the G20 summit in Toronto. Guys, if you didn't see my film, Into the Fire, Bill Blair was the man who was in charge when all these people were falsely and wrongly arrested. And it was the biggest mass arrest of innocent civilians in Canada. They ended up launching a class action civil lawsuit over this, and they won. They had to, the police, the Toronto, Bill Blair, all of them, they had to pay up $16 million for the absolute travesty that was unleashed from the violence of the state on people. And this is the guy who's leading the charge here in terms of defense and suggesting that we send our guns to Ukraine. Guys, it's absolutely insane. You've got Justin Trudeau, ranting on and on about how Ukraine must win this war against Russia. He's literally become completely unhinged, like in this video, going off the rails, screaming like an absolute lunatic, suggesting that we have to stand by every single day until we win this war. Well, now they want to take the guns and send it to Ukraine. This is exactly what I've been warning about for a long, long time, folks. He's coming for the guns, and it looks like the day has actually arrived. So we're going to talk about all of this and much, much more in this video, guys. But really quickly, just before we do, I'd ask that you check me out here at pressfortruth.ca/donate if you appreciate my efforts to bring you this info. Guys, here you can do a one-time donation with PayPal. You can do Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies. You could sign up at Subscribestar or by clicking here for a monthly reoccurring contribution. You can also send an e-transfer to dan@pressfortruth.ca, or you can send stuff to my P.O. box, guys. Links for all of this is located in the description below. Thank you so much to everybody who takes 2 minutes today to support my efforts here at Press for Truth. All right, guys, I want to start this off with a quote from Stefan Molyneux, which I alluded to in the beginning of this video, who says, "The moral argument is guns can't be both good and bad. This is just a logical thing, and since you will need guns in the hands of police to take away the guns from the hands of private citizens, then what you're really saying here is that guns in the hands of the government are really good, and guns in the hands of private citizens are really bad. And then what you've done here is you've created opposite moral standards for two groups of people who are not differentiated by anything except this concept called the state." So here you have two groups of people, right? The good guys with the guns, the state, and the bad guys with the guns, the private citizens. And who are they suggesting are specifically the bad guys here, folks? Well, check it out. Canada said Thursday it is outlawing another 324 firearm varieties guns and public safety minister said belong on the battlefield and not in the hands of hunters or sports shooters. What the hell are they doing? Justin Trudeau literally has been saying for the last 4 or 5 years that this plan to confiscate Canadians' guns has nothing to do with taking them from law-abiding citizens, and now they're literally going after, quote, hunters, guns, and sports rifles, when it's already next to impossible for a Canadian to legally obtain a firearm in Canada. I don't know if you know what that process is like. You will be one of the most vetted persons on the planet if you attempt to get a gun in Canada. They will look into absolutely everything. They will even contact like your ex-spouses to see if there are any domestic violence issues. If you happen to be a licensed legal producer of cannabis, you're certainly not allowed to hold a firearm. If you do have them, you have to store your gun in a safe, locked up, separate from where the bullets have to be stored, separately locked up as well, rendering the firearm completely useless. On top of that, if you want to travel anywhere, even if you just want to take your gun to a gun store to have it repaired or looked at by a pro, you got to notify the police of everywhere you're going to be from point A to point C and point B and everywhere in between, your route, your complete itinerary, and not to mention if you are a legally owned, law-abiding citizen who owns a firearm in Canada, you waive the right to warrantless searches. Warrant searches. The police can just enter your home at any given moment, any time that they want. If you are a law-abiding legal gun owner, they don't need a warrant. They can just pop in and check in on you and see how everything is going. So already, right now, Canada is one of the strictest places in the world for legal, law-abiding people to get a gun. And everybody knows that this isn't an issue for criminals. Criminals will always be able to obtain the things that they need to do, and if it's not a gun, they'll go for a knife. If it's not a knife, they'll go for a vehicle. They'll figure out some way of achieving the evil that they are intent on achieving. So it's not the gun, but it's obviously which hands it comes into. And the moral argument that the government is making here is that only in the hands of the state is it good, and in the hands of the citizens it is bad. And the fact that they're trying to give all this stuff to Ukraine, despite the fact that these, firearms that they are now considering like illegal, according to the Canadian Criminal Code on firearms here, the maximum permitted magazine capacity for some of these guns that they're going to be handing over to the Ukrainian army has a maximum magazine capacity of 5 rounds. 5 cartridges for magazines designed for a semi-automatic center-fire long gun. So what on earth are 5 rounds going to be doing, for people on the battlefield in Ukraine? Absolutely nothing, guys. This has nothing to do with helping Ukraine or trying to send these weapons to Ukraine, and it has everything to do with cracking down and prohibiting, as I said, law-abiding Canadian citizens from obtaining guns. Because we all know what happens when people like this take the guns. You just got to look at history. Mao took the guns. Stalin took the guns. Hitler took the guns. Every single one of the people under those leaders who did that suffered a pretty horrific fate. So the fact that Trudeau is now really coming for the guns and quite literally coming for the rifles of hunters and sports shooters now should have red flags and alarm bells going off like crazy, folks. So just needed to bring this one to your attention. The criminal Bill Blair, the defense minister Justin Trudeau, and the rest of them are coming for the guns. Guys, I've been warning about this for a long time. If you go to Press for Truth, you use the search feature up here at the top. You search for gun control. You're going to find pages and pages and pages of videos as I've been covering this topic for a long time now. And it's all kind of been culminating up to this particular moment in Canadian history where they're using the Montreal Polytechnique Massacre anniversary as an excuse to tug at the heartstrings right now of Canadians in order to, just completely whisk this through, which they just decided to do yesterday. And this is going to become, a reality for people very, very, very soon. So I just wanted to bring all of this to your attention, guys. Once again, if you do appreciate my efforts to bring you this info, I want to remind you, please check me out here at pressfortruth.ca/donate if you appreciate my efforts to continuously bring you this information. Again, I can't do this work without the support that comes directly from you, the viewers. So thank you so much to everybody who just takes 1 minute today to support my efforts here at Press for Truth. And that's all for today, guys. Just wanted to bring all that information to your attention. Once again, if you do appreciate my efforts to do so, please click the thumbs up button, share this video, and stay tuned, guys. We're going to have more video reports coming soon. This is Dan Dicks reporting for Press for Truth. We all want truth. The truth will set you free.